The World After Alice started out with this idea of a girl walking along a bridge, which is the prologue of this book. And I could just see it. So I usually start with some sort of image, and I could see her walking along the bridge. And so I thought, okay, well, now who is she? What is she doing? Where's her family? And then that question, where is her family? Who are the people that make up this young girl's life? Gave birth to what then became the novel. It changed drastically with each iteration. So the first draft that I had, it moved chronologically and was told it was a triptych. So each part was 6 years apart. Um, and then in the next draft, I got rid of the middle. So then you had what the early part and then 12 years later. And then I took that 12 years and I made it the frame narrative. So it encompasses the rest of the book. And eventually that's how we got to the novel. So the book starts off with the death of Alice. And I imagine it as soon as she, well, leaves the world, but also leaves the world of the book, she leaves behind this black hole, and the other characters are caught in the orbit of that hole, and her gravity is continuing to pull on them 12 years later, which is when the novel starts off with Alice's brother Benji and her former best friend Morgan announcing that they're getting married and are planning to reunite their estranged families together for the wedding. But at the heart of that is this abyss that continues to suck them in, continues to suck them down. And so throughout the book, we see the characters struggling with exactly what it means to move forward, and to both recognize the past, but also to not let it cause them to essentially collapse in their grief. So I used to do theater, as I said, and in our theater classes, our teacher would always have us do activities, is what they were called. So let's say building a house of cards on a table, and we had a time, there was a ticking clock, and then the scene partner would enter the scene and start to engage with you. And the idea was that the person doing the acting, or let's say building the house of cards, would be so immersed in the act of actually creating that the emotions would then arise spontaneously. And I think that's a really good lesson to apply to fiction, which is that if you give one, put a ticking time clock on the story, and two, give the characters some objective that needs to be accomplished. And then when you start to throw in all of the other elements, the emotion is going to arise more organically than if it's just trying to put in artificial stakes. Actually, I think I'm a pretty visual writer. And as you say, there were the excuse for lots of different events. I remember writing out like, okay, there's the rehearsal dinner the night before, and then what, right? Then it's the bride getting ready in her room and the family getting together before this big moment where they walk down the aisle, and all of that was really useful because I could have a lot of different characters in scene, but I could also find interesting couplings between characters that might not have come about otherwise.